Oh, thank you for your playfulness. Welcome. I'm going to name this congregation later, but that lifting up on joyful was something I learned in a congregation in Massachusetts that's been around for a very long time. And first time I saw the song, and all of a sudden the whole congregation got to joyful, and what they did was just all ages. It was delightful. It was delightful. So I'm going to invite us to right now. Let's free ourselves from our devices for an hour, or at least the sound of our devices, if nothing else. Chance to turn off our cell phones. And now that you're seated, I'm going to invite you to greet each other. Actually, to maybe try it from the seated position. I invite you to say hello meaningfully to the people around you. Make sure everyone is greeted. Make sure everyone is greeted well. Thank you for that. I'm the Reverend Kevin Tarsa, for those who don't know me, privileged to serve this congregation. We're about to offer our land acknowledgement, and I would just celebrate yesterday that a member of the congregation, Frank Lawrence, who's the attorney for the tribe, did an amazing, fabulous outlaying of the heart and soul and a lot of detailed information about the tribe and its history, all relative to this possibility of purchasing land for the tribe. So I just want to celebrate that piece. We've been doing a land acknowledgement, I checked, since November 10th, 2019. That's when we first started. And today, our land acknowledgement is offered by Corey Silva.
Do I talk into the phone number? No, I don't know. With this basket of black oak acorns, we express our heartfelt desire that the Nisenan people may recover more and more of their rich cultural heritage. We commit to support them in these and other efforts in whatever ways we can, under their guidance and at their request. A specific way in which we can offer support right now and for a few more weeks is by contributing to their Homeland Return campaign as they raise money to purchase some of their ancestral land. It's important to know that even very small donations make a difference, as the number of people donating helps to procure larger donations. If successful, they will once again have a home for their people. Do we have an envelope for that in the basket today?
We don't. Hang on, we'll get to the offering. Claire was just asking about, could we have a special donation for that today? The Chirp website is the best way to actually do that donating, the most succinct and helpful, or the GoFundMe campaign. Again, the numbers show up there, right? And I will name that if all goes well, we'll have the video of yesterday's event available. One of our goals was to help get this information out to the wider community. So stay tuned. Shortly, we'll hope to have that. I want to celebrate the painting up here, among other things. It's one of Barbara Hoyt's paintings, two of them up here. You may have seen these around the building, very similar paintings. This one's been in the minister's office. It's been in my office for a time, newly reframed. Barbara Hoyt and her husband Jerry were involved in this congregation from its very first days, early on in 1994, until they moved to from Nevada City to Colorado in 2010. Barbara's love for the ideas and feelings expressed here at UUCM moved her to use her artistic talents to create these beautiful paintings, which the congregation used like stained glass windows to embellish whatever place the congregation happened to be occupying a Sunday morning or a Sunday afternoon, so it would feel like home. Right? This one's titled Our Place in Nature. Now, these might have been at the Magic Theater or the library or an elementary school. This one titled The Living Spirit. Also up here, come look afterwards up closely. There are people hidden in these. They're like subtleties in the paintings. This one titled Thought as Power, and it includes a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson at the bottom, a Unitarian. The quote is, "The retrospective value of a new thought is immense. 'Tis like a torch applied to a long train of powder," i.e. gunpowder style powder, right? That first one, this one up top, is titled Our Place in Nature. Come look at the details. Well, Barbara designed this chalice in the mountains motif that has since become the congregation's logo. It shows up in all kinds of places, on the banner that goes to events. It was on the sign out front. Normally you'd see that up here on that wooden medallion made by Joel and Company. And of course, it's the Martin Luther King painting is also by Barbara Hoyt. She designed and created many of the orders of service in the very early days, which you can see in the archives in the library. And as we do a small bit of starting to honor this congregation's 30 years, we do so with gratitude to Barbara Hoyt, whose legacy continues to serve this community really beautifully. And speaking of serving this community, it's Keith Johnson who will offer our chalice lighting words this morning.
Morning. The church has left the building by Reverend Margaret Weiss. The church is not a place, it is a people. The church is not only a steeple above the tree-lined streets and cars, rather it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and of justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather person, linked with person, linked with person. All ages and genders and abilities. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. The church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but the commitment day after day and moment after moment of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, a pew. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts. Gathering, however we can, to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us, together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it.
Thank you, Keith. So Cheryl and I were looking at the archives at book one, some of those very earliest documents, and there were orders of service. And one of the very first orders of service, they sing "This Little Light of Mine." So some things don't change. It might not have been for singing the children on their way, but a song that still remains with us as we sing our youngest members on their way to Kids Connection and send the light, the chalice light, with them. This
morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Community of the Mountains. This is a special Sunday in which we celebrate the very first UUCM service 30 years ago. We're beginning a 2-year-long celebration of the founding of this church, which began with a living room conversation, moved through a couple of years of services held in various locations, and culminated in becoming part of the Unitarian Universalist Association. You'll be hearing this morning from some of our long-timers, which sounds better than old-timers, I think. I'm Cheryl Morris, and I think of all the folks that'll be standing up here, I have the shortest history with UUCM. So I'm here to learn and to express gratitude to all those who made possible what we have today. In the church library, as Kevin mentioned, are a number of scrapbooks going back to the beginning, and they're really fun to take a look at. They contain photographs, documents, including minutes of meetings, budgets, member rosters, newspaper articles, and ads, and reports of various committees. Of course, committees. Many committees. I was intrigued with one that identified several purposes for the church: meeting spiritual needs, creating community, providing intergenerational interaction. Sound familiar? Much has changed, but so much remains the same. We're a gathering of seekers, doers, and creators. We're from a variety of backgrounds, hold a variety of beliefs, express our sexuality in a variety of ways, occupy a variety of points on the economic spectrum. Whether you're a first-time visitor, a long-time member, or anywhere in between, we're so happy to have you with us this morning. Let's take a look back and then look forward with renewed energy and purpose because of the vision and dedication of those who went before us. Welcome.
For opening words from Suzuki Roshi, who was a beloved and renowned Zen Buddhist teacher in the West. Once in a question and answer portion of a class, a student said to Suzuki, "I've been listening to your lectures for years, but I don't understand. Could you just please put it in a nutshell? Can you reduce Buddhism to one phrase?" Everyone laughed. Suzuki laughed and then answered, "Everything changes." And then Suzuki asked for another question. In this month of exploring the theme of transformation, on this day just shy of 30 years since that first official service held by this fledgling congregation on March 19, 1994, at which Jeff Kane spoke, and Jeff Kane will speak here coming up at one of our services. These are our opening words too, really are always opening words. Everything changes. Everything changes. 1994 was when this hymn book came out for the first time. We had a whole bunch of new hymns. One of them was number 300 in here, With Heart and Mind. It captured in a way that was really helpful, especially 30 years ago, this blend of people who came for intellectual stimulation, people who came for community, people who came for justice, people who came for spiritual nourishment. With heart and mind and voice and hand, in other words, doing something in the world, may we this time and this place transcend. In other words, it's not just about us and not just about this moment, but about how our lives affect what is beyond. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit. This will be new to most of you probably. So Toby will play it through, we'll have a chance to hum through, and then we'll sing. Number 300. Number 300 in the hardcover hymn books. feel the spirit of that, right? This desire to be open, this desire to be welcoming. So this morning, as one of what will be many reflections over these next couple of years, we invite Burnell Scott and Paul Elias, who are here way back in those early days, to share some thoughts about their memory here.
Hi, I'm Burnell, and I'm just a long-term member of UUCM, not quite a charter member. The church started in 1994 and became official in 1995. And my late husband Don and I joined in 1996. And I remember the early days of the Sunday services because there were 3 locations in Nevada City where we met at various times. There was an elementary school, the Episcopal Church, and the Madeline Helling Library. And it was a pain to schlep all our supplies and foods, snacks to these locations. So naturally, we're excited by this building and later on to pay off the mortgage. I have fond memories of the women's group. I remember it used to have clothing swaps. And one time I brought this fuzzy Angora sweater that was pink and I was no longer becoming to me. So I turned it in and a young lady named Hannah took it. And it was perfect on her because she was tall and slender. And early days, we had no minister, then a part-time minister, and finally full-time ministers. And we started as a family-based congregation, and now we're a program-based congregation. So we've come a long way. We're now blessed to have Reverend Kevin as our minister, and we can look forward to many more years in this lovely mountain community. I hope there will be eventually be in a beautiful location with more parking.
Greetings. I'm going to give a little retro of even before UUCM was UUCM, so bear with me. It's not often you get to do a do-over, but thankfully UUCM allows me this opportunity, or in my case, let's try and finish that thought. After attempting a tribute to Anita on February 24th at the congregational dinner and realizing when flipping to my last page, oops, left page 3 on the printer at home and time to punt and again ad-libbing as I usually do in my life. But here goes take 2. And with my UUCM historical perspective, according to Paul, me, about another significant, according to me, and perhaps life-affirming reason, Anita's night vision. For founding UUCM years ago, and the split from the Auburn Sierra Unitarian Universalist Church, SFUU, the birthing church of UUCM, and how easy it is to reinterpret UUCM's early founding history. So yes, some 30 years ago, Anita and I were on the SFUU church's board and would travel Highway 49 together in the darkness of winter to attend evening meetings in Auburn. Anita, being in her youthful 60s, wasn't trusting of her night vision. And so myself, in my early 40s, wanting to make it into my 60s, did the night driving. Where discussions of creating a UUCM, a UU church in Grass Valley or Nevada City was tossed about in those hour-long drives to and from Auburn. I, with better night vision, but definitely not the forward vision of Anita and other founding UUCM members of what could be in Grass Valley or Nevada City. And here we are today. Thank you, Anita, as well as many other founding charter members, which I am not. Granted, I didn't mind the driving to Auburn because of the strong intergenerational community I and my young family, I have 2 sons who were real involved in the RE program, that we had at SFUU. And that's still what much of UUism is for me, familiar community. Jump forward. So yes, I didn't early on jump on board of separating from SFUU. The split from SFUU took a strong hit to that congregation. There was even land purchased, many of us don't know that, at Lake of the Pines off Highway 49. But thankfully, SFUU did give their blessing with an SFUU congregational vote, which I believe is required in the UU tradition. A good thing. Though a minor reason, and I probably am solely the only one who knows this, and Anita can correct me, which I'm willing to hear from Anita shortly. I'm certainly thankful for Anita's lack of night vision some 30 years ago, but very thankful for her expansive vision and others at the time building a local UU community that is UUCM today. And a quick side note, I did attend a few of those early UUCM Sunday gatherings way back once, and Brunel, I think we also, and Anita can correct me, I think we met once or twice at the Magic Theater in Nevada City. And I don't know if any of you remember the funky but cherished Magic Theater in downtown Nevada City with the couches that you could find change and things like that in those times. But, and we also met on a very memorable spring Sunday morning service at Anita and Bill's sunny living room off Willow Valley Road. I was asked by Bill Tuttle, only once, mind you, to give a 15-minute talk on some subject of my choosing. I'm sorry to say, or maybe thankfully, I can't find a copy of that talk, but I do recall the revealing title and my ponderings at the time. Are you ready for this? Would Jesus have been an environmentalist? And likely why I was only asked once by Bill to give a talk in those early days of UUCM. Apparently, the UUCM founders wanted a future. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I asked Anita, looking back, if you name 3 key things, what might those be? And Anita mentioned purchasing this building. She talked about a member who happened to walk by frequently and said, hey, I wonder if. Second was paying off the building, burning the mortgage, which this congregation did moments before the pandemic lockdown, in one of those final events. And the third was the way this congregation was part of what it became ultimately Hospitality House. Its origins here with Utah Phillips, and in fact, even in this building. And I've asked Anita to share a story about that start of serving people who were houseless.
Utah Phillips had a history of traveling the country, taking his music, his thoughts with him, and sharing them with as many people as he could. So when he found us and became part of us, we used him as much as we could. And he was hard to hold down, though. And he had a vision that we should expand and become more community-wide, not just a little group meeting here and there now and then. And one of the things that really impressed him was the fact that we had so many people who were homeless, and he wanted to do something about that. So he came up with the idea that churches could be a place where people could find a warm place for an evening, a hot meal, that sort of thing. And so he proposed that we start this here at UUCM, which we did using our back kitchen to make warm, lovely meals, and then having buckets, plastic tubs rather, along the back wall where we have our refreshments after the service, and then welcoming those who needed a place to stay. The first night I was there, I got to welcome the first person who found our place as a habitat for that night. And Hospitality House really got its start in our back room. He was somebody who came in loaded with clothes, loaded with belongings. We got him a tub. We had him put his things safely there. We had some mats that we used that we put in this room, put chairs to the side, and had a lovely evening with him and a few other people who joined him. And that was the start of Hospitality House right here in this church. And it's grown and has become a vital part of this community. And I like to think that we had an influence with that. And it grew. Other churches joined the group, and we would then take our people and go to other churches. And I can remember being at Peace Lutheran Church and welcoming people there in the same fashion. So we have had a pivotal influence in this community. And that was part of the vision I had, that we could start ourselves here, but spread what we had and thought in the community and become a voice for peace, for justice, for all the things we stand for. Okay.
Perfect.
Anita, thank you. Not just for speaking today, of course, but for all. History, right? Individual people's stories, individual people's lives, more to come. I would invite us in this moment to surface the joys and sorrows that came with us today. Maybe some of those joys are about the history of the congregation, its journey. Maybe some of its sorrows are too. But I invite you to stop, to take a breath for a moment, perhaps to unwind your body and to notice what's in your heart and what's in your mind. Notice the prayers that arise in you, or the intentions that arise in you. Perhaps it's the I've been meaning to's that might serve someone else's well-being. Perhaps it's the large, big, frightening things in the world. Or maybe for you, what's resonant today is very close in, very personal. I invite us into this weekly ritual of acknowledging in the silence and the music and in our shared holding of each other, in the room of the placing of stones in the bowl of water, this honoring of what we hold. People on Zoom are always invited to type into the chat some of what you carry, but you might not want to share what that is. And Beth Caro had the really lovely idea of placing a stone in a Zoom chat kind of way, like putting a 0 or an O in the chat, your own version of a stone. I invite us all to enter this time really thoughtfully, aware of ourselves, aware of each other, aware of the prayers and intentions in our heart. If you're in the room, I invite you to come forward. Place a stone in the bowl of water. I've placed stones for the folks that are on Zoom, for the folks who remained seated in the room. And Cheryl has lit an abundance of chalices this morning. Shanti has placed on the altar for all the rest, large and small. And for our meditation, our prayer this morning, in a moment, I'll invite us to sing the song Spirit of Life. Spirit of Life was the well-loved song by Carolyn McDade, even before 1994. Many congregations were singing it. And Carolyn had been at a kind of Solidarity with Central America event and was feeling so tired from the work, right? That work toward justice on a certain day. She said she felt like she was dry cardboard, and that if someone opened the door, she might just turn to dust. So she came home and, without turning the lights on in her house, found her way to her piano at home. And she said that she did not compose this song, that she prayed this song. That this is the prayer, this is what came, Spirit of Life. So it's always had this combination of kind of heart-centeredness, but also justice-centeredness. That's where it came from. Just, she was tired of the world, not tired of the work, but just tired of the world. And once the hymn book came out, published in 93, but in most congregations' hands in 1994, and this hymn was in there, it quickly became one of the most well-known, most often sung hymns in our congregations, such that years later, in the early 2000s, at a General Assembly, thousands of Unitarian Universalists are meeting at the opening big gathering when someone had a heart attack in the room. And this is the song that arose, just arose out of the group, the song that everyone, most people knew. And so it has that kind of history in our tradition. And again, when we looked at those very first orders of service, this was one of the songs for this early community too. So with all of that in mind and heart and your own prayers, I invite us to rise in body or in spirit and to sing Spirit of Life. We'll sing it a couple times together. If it's new to you and it helps to see, it's number 123 in those hardcover hymn books.
Sing.
That's a video, Cypress.
Why I give my time and energies to UUCM. I really appreciate being able to work with other people who are sharing my same values and are committed to their own growth and making the world a better place and figuring out how to do that individually and together. I think working together is such an important piece. And I actually think that's one of the biggest transformations for me is, working in a group and setting boundaries around that, not just saying yes to everything, but to select and choose what I do. And there's so many ways that I get back more than I give, from greeting and safety committee to being on the membership team. There's just Soul Matters, and the writing group have just been just very fulfilling to me. So I just feel like the more I show up, the more I get.
Thank you to Laura. So just for a moment, I want to just crowdsource some of highlights for you from your time with UUCM, whether that is 30 years or this morning. What stands out to you as you think back? What do you think is important to name about the journey of this congregation, the story of this congregation? I'll repeat. Friends. Perseverance. Community. Singing, the children's program. Joy. Welcoming, resilience. Inclusivity. Camping. I'm going to check the chat too in a moment, so feel free to type into the chat. Justice in action. Learning from elders. Learning from children. Dance parties. Coming of age. Beloved. Beloved community. From online, those camping trips where we let our kids run wild and find their own spirit. Sorry? Thought-provoking. Creativity. Life's transitions. Justice. Grateful my steward paid me a home visit. He gave me hope and courage. Something very recent. Playful. Getting to know myself in a new way. Sacred space. I would name risk-taking too. Growth. Mutual support. Love, someone writes. A safe place to be your true self. Reverend Kevin, thank you. Worship team that prepares the Sunday services. Reverend Megan, first called settled minister of the congregation. Music. Being dumped into leadership. Going on, stretching and learning more about myself. Love hanging out together while working on projects. Indeed. To be continued. I love and I'm taken with that you offered qualities largely as opposed to events or specifics, right? All those things you named took place in any number of ways, right? And on any number of occasions. I found an article this spring about turning 30. It was by Heather Wake through an effort called Upworthy. It's an effort which they say strives to share the best of humanity with the world. The article was titled, "Advice for when you're old enough to know better, but young enough to do it anyway." I love that. So Heather reached out online, figuring here's a place to get wisdom. She was looking for advice from people, for people who were just entering their 30s. And I'll share some of the replies in a moment. I was originally going to do more commentary on them, but just to hear them as they are and think of them in light of being applied to this community actually gives them kind of a playful and meaningful resonance both. So I'm going to leave most of the translation to you. Or your own application of them to your own life. I'll also point out that although this congregation, this community, is in the process of turning 30 in church years, in institutional rhythm years, UUCM is actually yet quite young. More finding its way through adolescence, I would suggest, than young adulthood yet. Same institution begun 30 years ago, but with a changing body, hair and growth in new places, a deepening voice, periods, coming of age, hormones, brain still in development, on a search for belonging and identity distinct from one's parents. Adolescence with its exciting, confusing, and very natural push-pull energy toward adulthood, right, and individual identity. Now, I say this having served an internship, as I mentioned, at First Parish in Wayland, Massachusetts, which was formed in 1640, 384 years ago. Of course, this is nothing compared to European, right, religious institutions or Eastern institutions. Talk about archives in Massachusetts. And I say this having served the UU Church in Lansing, Michigan, which next Sunday, just right next Sunday, it's kind of the same time, kicks off its 175th anniversary. To say that UUCM is in its adolescence is to say that it is at this wonderfully, I think, dynamic, open, and growthful time. So back to the 30s. Heather Wake points out that there is a misconception that somehow we're supposed to have everything figured out by our 30s. But that in truth, we're always just figuring things out as we go along, and thus the benefit of some wisdom from others who've been there. So one person's advice was, stretch, moisturize, start accumulating cash. I love the stretch metaphor, right? For here and now, for reaching into new possibilities, for staying limber and flexible, helping avoid injury. Moisturize, what would be the translation of moisturize for this congregation for you? Self-care. Some spirituality investment, I would suggest, for a bunch of people. Relationships. All that needs tending, right? All that needs nurturing, attending, care, needs regular applications of something helpful, right? Start accumulating cash. Now, our finance folks will be pleased to hear that, right? But it's about setting aside resources for when they might be needed, right? So the endowment fund, all the ways this congregation does that, monetarily as well as other ways. Another person wrote, you should have started planning for your 50s about 5 years ago. Get to it, they said. And by planning, I don't mean just retirement, obviously retirement, but also getting to know yourself and what you want to do with your life. You have to be honest with yourself. Find out what actually matters for you and start working towards that. Get rid of the unhelpful notions you had when you were a teenager. Find your balance between spiritual and material things. I love how this applies, right? Looking ahead, strategic planning, envisioning. What I so love and appreciate about Anita is she is always looking out that direction, right? So in that list of, I asked her, looking back, what stood out? I said, looking forward, what do you see? And after having named the importance of buying the building and paying off the mortgage, she said, people might be surprised to learn that I don't feel like we have to stay here, right? She says, I see a place for the future. So it's that kind of leadership that I think has made the difference for UUCM, right? Here's where we are now, and let's keep looking. Somebody else's advice. Don't worry if you haven't achieved your life goals or decided what career you want by now. It'll come. Allow for discovery. Another, life is not over. There's still time to find a decent partner. and your experience and maturity can help. That's one of the lovely things, isn't it? We're not starting from back when. We have new understandings to work with. Here's another. I hate to be the one to bring this up, but start mentally preparing for the inevitable major loss events that will soon begin to accumulate in your life. If you don't have a healthy perspective regarding death, start working on that ASAP. See a therapist if necessary. Losing your parents is the first big one for most. A truth, right? When you think about a congregation that got started by a group of people and entering adolescence, right? We'll be losing people over time. Another, if you have unresolved issues or find yourself ruminating over shit that happened years ago, go and see a therapist. I would say, or maybe breathe deeply and invite healing. Brave seeking repair, tend untended wounds. Consider reconciliation. I find myself here now, this far into my ministry with you, and kind of looking ahead also, thinking about this. What are the wounds that are still tender, that are still in need of tending? And how might this community go about any possibility toward healing? Here's another. Take care of your teeth. By the time you're in your 30s, tooth decay starts to be a problem. Brush and floss regularly. I think of the building, right? And the basic things we care for. But it doesn't end there. Here's another. Have fun. Too many people treat their 30s like their lives are over, but in reality, they can be a lot like your 20s, just with more money and experience. And ideally, less worrying about what others think of you. I would suggest that this is a 60s threshold too. If you keep it up another 10 years, you can do the 40s. Things get harder as they get easier, but you're in a position to handle it. And you have the experience and knowledge to keep going, where this happening to you in your 20s would have been catastrophic. You'll spend these years finding what makes you happy, realizing you've been chasing probably the wrong thing. Be ready to pivot, restart, readjust, and be open and communicating with those in your life as you go through your joys and challenges. This is a transformative decade. So here's to these next 2 years of UUCM entering its 30s, and in UUCM's church years, adolescence at the same time. With gratitude for everything, truly everything and everyone, including you, that has led to what this congregation is in this moment. Be ready to pivot, restart, readjust, and be open and communicating with those in your life as you go through your joys and challenges. This is a transformative decade. May it be so. May it be so.
Just thinking about my 30s here for a minute. Besides supporting our UUCM staff programs and building, each month 25% of our offering is shared with a community partner. This month, it's Interfaith Food Ministry, a nonprofit which likely needs little introduction because UUCM has not only contributed financially, but also in hands-on volunteer hours for many years. If you heard their representative, Victoria Lindsay, speak last week, you know how dramatically the need has increased. And it's no surprise to learn that not only have the number of clients increased, but they are seeing the return of former clients who are no longer able to stretch their budgets to cover the increase in food prices. A large number of their clients are seniors or families with children. 25% of your donation will go to IFM. If you'd like them to receive 100%, place it in the white envelope in the collection basket, and the slide will tell you other ways to give. Thank you for your generosity. We dedicate these gifts to continuing to do our part to ensure that everyone in our community has their needs met and is treated with dignity. No one should go to bed hungry. Thank you.
Thank you to those of you who are here for the first or second time. I'm one of those shy people in life where crossing a new threshold is a big deal, right? Entering a new space where you don't know folks necessarily. So thanks for taking that risk. Toby, thanks for the music. Thank you. Thank you to Corey and Lindsay, who are here to be with our youngest ones upstairs, to Paul and Cypress operating our AV in the back. Thank you so much. On an extra early morning, no less. Eileen online, serving as our chat host. Carl and Laura, thank you for greeting today so beautifully. Each of you does that so well. Keith and Beth Rose for refreshment work today. Keith has multiple roles. Shanti for another really lovely setting. Thanks for including Barbara's paintings, a couple of Barbara's paintings, and the chalices. Thanks, Brunel, and thank you, Paul, and thank you, Anita, for sharing today. Thanks for reading Corey and Keith as well. And Cheryl, thank you for serving as worship associate today, as one of our newer members relative to the speakers today, as you said. Yeah. Couple announcements. A book group meets today at 12:15, looking at Entangled Life. It's a monthly book group for those who are new. Their circle suppers are potlucks in people's homes, and they're looking for hosts, have a small group of people over, and today's the last day to sign up to be a host. So who is here to help sign people up for hosting? So would you rise, Lori, so just people can see who you are? Yeah. So to host a circle supper potluck, so please see Lori. Yeah. That's right, you can host it right here. If you don't necessarily host it at your home, you could also host at a friend's home. Yeah. Women's Circle the monthly Women's Circle potluck is tomorrow. This month it focuses on skill sharing called Teachable Moments. Joys and Sorrow. There's a new Sophia McCain and Carol Nimick are helping establish a monthly Joys and Sorrows centered candlelight service on a Thursday evening. So the first one will be this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. Please join if that serves you. Building and Grounds work party next Saturday, always a helpful way just to engage and do some things around the congregation. Plus next Sunday, there'll be a road cleanup after a weather delay for the new stretch of road that's this congregation is going to be responsible for. Oh, there it is. That's right. We actually put in a slide. So next Sunday, the folks will meet here at 12:15 and then head over. It's over by Nevada Union High School. And as always, check out the website for the latest information and links, etc. For our closing song, we're going to step out of the past and into a song that's more from the in-between times, but it was meant to be a song, and this is in the soft cover hymn books. If someone wants one, they're here and available. This was a song that was meant to specifically to speak to the vision of young people for what Unitarian Universalism and the world can be. It's meant to name this piece. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and to sing. Hands and hearts and spirits into faith set free from fear. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze. When our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way. When we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, when our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the stories of our living rings a song both brave and free, calling pilgrims still to witness to the life of liberty. When the fire of commitment sets our mind and soul ablaze, when our hunger and our passion need to call us on our way, when we live with deep assurance of the flame that burns within, then our promise finds fulfillment and our future can begin. From the dreams of youthful vision comes a new prophetic voice, which demands a deeper justice built by our courageous choice. Margaret Weiss again. Margaret Weiss again. The church is not a place, it is a people, here for the work of healing and of justice. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. Our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts, gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache and pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us, together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. We remind ourselves of that importance with these good words to each other, this community benediction. Together, let us carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. If you're here in the building, please join us for refreshments and conversation and connecting and the book group perhaps. And otherwise, we'll see you for our Equinox-centered service next Sunday, Round and Round, the Earth is Turning.